This is NDTV, and you're watching Classics.
We have as our guest Sri Lanka's Foreign Minister Laxman Kadirgamar, who over the last 5 years has been engaged in a strategically important diplomatic offensive to win Sri Lanka's war against the LTTE. Mr Kadirgamar, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
What sort of help has been promised by India, or has there been any promise at all?
Well, help in this sense, we get help, by the way, does not mean free grants or aid of that kind at all. There are military items that from time to time, over the years, we have been getting from India and paying for, as indeed with many other countries. We purchase arms, this is no secret at all. We purchase arms from Pakistan, from China, from Ukraine, from Israel, and so on. There's a whole group of countries who supply arms to us at a price. So that kind of shopping list, if you like, is always around. It's nothing special, nothing spectacular at all, and nothing very specific to what was happening in Elephant Pass. It's constantly on the table.
You've been quoted as saying that you can vouch for the fact that the Foreign Minister of India, Mr Jaswant Singh, did make an offer on Star News to help resolve the conflict by mediation if both parties were to ask for it. But you also said that India has not made any direct offer to do any such thing. Are you happy now with the Indian position? Would you like more from India?
The Indian position at the moment, as we understand it, is that they have ruled out military intervention on the ground. Now, that is a very specific thing. Ruled out military intervention on the ground. And we all know that when the matter was discussed in the Lok Sabha, it was debated, and at the end of it, the Prime Minister made a statement to that effect. So that's one specific thing. Now, the Prime Minister also left open, and I think Mr Jaswant Singh also, if I remember correctly, left open the question of humanitarian assistance, should the need arise. Now, there is no, as far as I'm aware, no more specificity about that as to what the humanitarian assistance is and when it might arise and what form it might take, because I think wisely when you're talking of humanitarian assistance, you can't be very concrete and specific at a given point of time, because you're dealing with unfolding events. You don't know what shape or form the assistance might take in the days or weeks or months ahead. There again, there was a statement of principle. You see, so we have two things there. The first is no military intervention on the ground. Second is humanitarian assistance if the need arises. Now, those two are pretty specific. Then one must never forget that over and over again, the government of India has reiterated its position, well-known position, that it stands for the sovereignty, territorial integrity and unity of Sri Lanka. Now, you might say, some people might say, those are mere words, they mean nothing. I totally disagree with that, because, you see, when that kind of position is stated and restated, and particularly in a very troubled time such as this, it acquires great significance. You see, if the Indian government was silent on that point and had ceased to reiterate that proposition at this time, some significance might have been read into it. But that is not the case at all.
India has been joined in this sort of reiteration by the US, for instance.
By the US and by a number of people.
Now, is this the result of a diplomatic offensive that you have launched or mounted?
Well, the US, as you know, has taken a very specific position with regard to the LTTE. The US banned, not banned, it declared the LTTE to be a terrorist organization 3 years ago. It has a law which permits it to do that. Many other countries do not have laws which permit it to do that. India has banned the LTTE, and that ban was renewed only a few days ago. So there you have two countries who make common cause with regard to their stand in respect of the LTTE.
Since India has now renewed the ban on the LTTE, isn't there a reason for the LTTE to see India's stand or is India's interest as prejudiced against them? What is the hope that the LTTE will listen to any such mediation that India might be offering? Why should the LTTE listen at all?
Well, certainly India has taken a very strong stand against the LTT, as you would expect. It can't do anything else because LTT murdered an Indian Prime Minister. There can't be a bigger crime than that. That is so. But what India is saying is, if you want us to mediate, and by the way, I don't like the expression mediation. I much prefer facilitation because mediation has certain unpleasant connotations. When they say that they are prepared to play the honest broker, it must be with the consent of both the parties. That's what they are saying. Now, whether the LTT will agree to India playing this role is another matter. I can't read their mind on this.
Don't you think, in hindsight, that the rejection of a ceasefire offer by the LTT by the Sri Lankan government was a mistake, and that Sri Lanka should have perhaps sent a better signal, should have been more open about having talks with the LTT?
Our position is very clear. We have indicated to the LTT and to everybody, to the whole world, that notwithstanding the fighting, we are ever ready to start talking to the LTT. We are ever ready to start talking to the LTT, talking about talks, talking about preliminaries, getting the ground set, the ball rolling, whatever you like, whatever expression you wish to use, at any moment. And the President has made that abundantly clear even a few days ago. And that position stands notwithstanding the fighting. Now, if you ask me the question, how can you have talks when there is fighting going on? My answer is very simple. Right through in recent history, you've had abundant examples of warring parties talking while fighting. And a number of examples. In the Middle East, the whole process has been that.
But the LTT is not interested?
The point at the moment is the LTT is very intransigent, and more now it is rather cock-a-hoop because of the recent military successes which it undoubtedly has had. And I can perfectly straightforwardly say that there is no sign whatsoever that the LTT is prepared to start talking now. It might well in a little while or a longer while, that we don't know, but not now.
But you wouldn't say...
But our position is quite different. What we are saying is, you can come for talks tomorrow, but no ceasefires, no withdrawal of troops. We've had very, very bad experiences of the LTT ceasefires in the past, and we are not falling into that trap again. But what we are saying is, we have something substantive to talk about. We have proposals for the amendment of the Constitution. We have things which have been very, very solidly discussed by our Parliament, by all the parties in our Parliament. We are having discussions in the South between the various parties to try and hammer out a common position and to amend the Constitution. And all that is for the purpose of giving to the minorities, including the Tamil people obviously, adequate guarantees of their security, safety and status in a united Sri Lanka. That has nothing to do with the LTT. Of course we recognize the fact that the LTT is a very important player because it has the punch and the clout and it is fighting us on the ground. But our concept is something much more than that. We are dealing with the Tamil people. Our duty is to the Tamil people because they are our citizens. All the Tamil people, wherever they may live in this country, are our citizens. They are Sri Lankans.
You think the Tamil community is not adequately represented in Sri Lanka, and that you think the LTT does not really represent the Tamils?
I seriously doubt that. See, I have been saying this for a long time, that it is only an assertion on the part of the LTT. You see, there is absolutely no evidence to warrant it. The LTT has come nowhere near a referendum or an election, not even by proxy, all these years. How are you to test that claim? The very fact that the Tamil people are quiet and they don't make a noise and so on is surely attributable to the fact that they are afraid. They are frightened. People don't, you can't expect the Tamil people to be heroic in the face of the guns that the LTT carries. It would be cruel to expect that kind of conduct on their part. But when there was a test, some kind of test, the LTT failed it badly. What was that test? That was when the army was approaching Jaffna 5 years ago. And the LTT decided, at gunpoint mind you, and this is very well documented, to take the Tamil people of the northern of the peninsula with them into the jungle. Some 400,000 or 500,000 people they drove out of their homes in Jaffna into the jungle with them, expecting that there would be a human shield, that they would demonstrate their loyalty to the LTTE. But what happened, in fact? The moment the army went into Jaffna, all the people just flocked back to their homes. I mean, it's the most dramatic thing. If you saw the photographs of that at the time, it was rather like the photographs one saw after partition of India and Pakistan. You know, people going back with everything loaded on bicycles, on lorries, on bullock carts, on their heads. A whole stream of people flocked back to their home. What does that show? That shows, to my mind, that A, they did not want to live with LTT in the jungle. B, that they did not believe the scare stories that they could not live with the army, which the LTT was assiduously spreading. And for 5 years, I would say that the people of Jaffna lived perfectly well with the army. There have been exceptions, there have been aberrations. Wherever there is an army, you will get incidents occurring. But by and large, the Sri Lankan army behaved very well in Jaffna this time.